Welcome to The Deal, a podcast dedicated to maximizing name, image, and likeness opportunities. You'll hear from student athletes, coaches, and athletic administrators on how NIL partnerships can impact individuals and the schools they attend. It all comes down to making the best deal.
All right, everyone, welcome back to The Deal, which is the NAIA Name, Image, and Likeness podcast where student athletes, administrators, and coaches can learn about NAIA deals, the benefits, and how to get started. My name is Paige Salviner. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Athletics Communications here at the NAIA, and I have a co-host here today, Mr. Jeff Melton, who is our Athletics Communications Manager for wrestling. And we are super excited because this podcast is brought to you by our partner, Open Doors. They are the world's leading athletic influencer platform. Today, we have two guests, Peyton Prussin and her coach, Ashley Flavin, both from Life University, which is located in Marietta, Georgia. We're excited to hear the journey of Peyton and how Coach Flavin sought her talent out early and now currently learning about Peyton's outstanding deal. And just a quick shout out to both ladies. I'd love Jeff to give a little bit of shout out about some of your past experiences together.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Coach, you've been so instrumental in the growth of women's wrestling around the country, and specifically the NAIA, serving on your roles as a raider. And first of all, thank you for that. We couldn't do it without you and your passion for the sport. And then, Peyton, I don't know where we would start about bragging about you. I think, maybe your record of what are we up to? 60 something and 0. It's not where you lose. Wow. It's whether by how much you win by, all of that. So, and of course that award you won with USA Wrestling, the first NAIA person to win that award was so huge, an incredible accomplishment. So both of you guys, just thank you so much for being with us and telling us more about you guys and the sport you guys represent.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
We'll just start off with both of you gals. Welcome, and let's just see how you guys met and your journey. Let's hear the path of how you all became collaborators together. Partners in crime.
Okay. Well, do you want to go first, Ash, or do you want me to go? No, I can. So I feel like we should have Christian here too, because really, so my husband's also the other coach for the women's wrestling team, and he found Peyton, went through a big tournament, and she had lost like the first or second round and came back and won 7 or 8 matches in a row her junior year of high school. And we were just super impressed by her grittiness coming back and just that whole road. And then we're like, wow, this girl actually does this a lot. If we could get her to win the first match, she'd be okay. And so we reached out early her junior year, and had her come out and visit and tried to, get a good relationship and a good rapport going, and got her to commit early, which was something that women's wrestling, most of the athletes are committing end of senior year, and she committed late junior year. So it was really early, and I think the first junior to commit. And so that was a big deal. But there was a P, I'll let you, if you want to tell the story of how you decided to tell us you were committing. But what does it look like from your end, that whole journey?
Similar. I'm sure we have like a little bit different perspectives on it, but it was around that same tournament, Freak Show in Las Vegas, which is a big West Coast tournament. And I did lose the first match quite often in high school, and then have to wrestle back. And they reached out to me, and then it kind of came off from there. But the reason why I was so comfortable committing early was they saw potential in me before I was winning first place, second place, or making it to the finals at Body Bar, making the finals at Fargo. They saw potential in me even when I was losing, and they wanted me even when I was losing the first match of tournaments. So a lot of coaches never reached out to me until I started to place pretty high and make it to the finals at a lot of tournaments. So it stuck out with me knowing that whether I win or lose, they still saw potential in me before I, started to perform really well.
Now, one thing I'm fascinated by is, what did you think about going to college all the way in Georgia? You're a Vegas girl, the desert and all that, going out east. What's that been like for you?
Well, at first I was like kind of nervous for it because, I was born and raised in Las Vegas, and there wasn't many options or opportunities to wrestle for women around there. So going away from home was pretty far for me. But I knew I would be able to have those conversations that I would have, like if I needed to have a conversation with Ashley or, Christian, I would be able to do that. Like if I needed someone to be like kind of like a parent role, I knew they would be able to, sit down and have a serious conversation, whether it was about wrestling or not. So that's also helped me transition over there a lot better.
Yeah, that leads us into our next question, which Ashley, the growth of women's wrestling, you and Christian kind of been some of those people pushing it forward. From your seat, as a coach, what do you think has been the key through that process over the last couple of years?
I think that we're starting to get more mainstream. Early on, it was, women's MMA wasn't a thing 20 years ago when I was graduating from high school. And so we went from 3 colleges that had women's wrestling in 2001. And now there's this explosion of over 100 overall. But I think social media has helped a lot, where we're just getting our face out there more. And it's not such a surprise to see a girl that's wrestling, whether it's in middle school or high school. I think MMA has been really instrumental. Judo, jiu-jitsu have been really instrumental because the public's becoming more comfortable with wrestling as a combat sport. Mm-hmm. And then truthfully, the NAIA has been awesome because so the NAIA institutions, I'm telling you guys this like you don't know, so this is more for people that are watching. But the NAIA institutions are small schools, and so often enrollment driven, and sports help boost enrollment. And women's wrestling, as it's growing, has been very instrumental in helping small institutions boost their enrollment, and has a pretty high return on investment and keeps men's programs around because of the balance with Title IX. And so I think people have seen that it makes sense to add the women's counterpart. Now I think we need to slow down and stop adding programs because high school is still catching up. But yeah. I think those are some of the big reasons that it has grown so much.
Very cool. I'm just curious, with the growth and explosion of wrestling, then is this how then you've started with your name, image, and likeness deals?
Yeah, I would think so. It was one tournament, I think, that really jump started everything. It was Missouri Valley Open back in 2021. And that's kind of where everything with the NIL deals and stuff really jump started for me. But something that I've always focused on and off the mat is just being a good person in general, being my authentic self, being, like I said, not only caring about, performance, but being a good teammate, a good friend, a good student athlete, getting good grades. So that's something that I've always focused on. And, I never really, try to reach out to a bunch of, companies or try to get deals. They kind of came naturally to me, but I focused on things that I can control, as like being the person I am. And I think that has helped me get the deals that I have now.
What is your biggest deal that you can talk about?
So the NIL deal that I have a few of them. The NIL deal right now I have with WWE, and then I have another NIL deal with Dopamino bands, and they're kind of like a workout band that you have to make videos for, but they're actually like cool, and I love using them. So it's great that you love a product that you're promoting as well. So
nice.
So can you walk us through kind of how that WWE Next in Line, how it happened?
So that actually kind of happened as a joke, but someone that I've known through social media that wrestled at Duke years ago messaged me one time after I think I won a tournament, and I posted about it, and they slid up on it and was like, WWE next when you finish ? And I was joking because I never even thought that possibly could be an opportunity, and I was like, totally, yeah. And he's like, for real? And then it kind of jump started from there. So it started off as a joke, but now that it's a real opportunity for me, it's something that I'm definitely trying to strive for.
What do you actually do for them? Like, what does your deal look like?
Well, it kind of goes hand in hand, like both ways, but during the deal, they would fly me out to events, to kind of get used to like what the training would be to be a WWE superstar. They'd fly me out to the PC, the training center in Orlando, kind of see their day-to-day base, like their day-to-day activities, what they have to do, their practices and their schedules. And then obviously go to the big events to see like how the crowd is. And it's honestly surreal when you're there. You can't even explain how crazy and cool it is. So
Nice.
So Ashley, from your point of view as a coach, you recruited Peyton, you've been involved in this since before it actually started. What does it mean for Life University to have, one of the most famous women's wrestlers, especially the most famous NAIA women's wrestler right now, through your program?
I think it's a testament to Peyton for sure, because one of the first things that she said as we were trying to figure out the logistics of making the deal work, along with being in season and in the middle of conference season with everything she needed to do. One of the things that she said is, I really think this will help the school and help boost the school's brand. So her being aware of that, I think is pretty, it's pretty in touch with, the business aspect of everything. NAIA gets overlooked a lot in general, and in women's wrestling gets overlooked, which we could have a whole nother podcast on why the NAIA should not be overlooked in women's wrestling, but I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time, but have me back if you would like that conversation. And so for P to be kind of the face of women's wrestling between USA Wrestling and being the National Athlete of the Week, and then being nominated for the Athlete of the Year award through them, with Flow Wrestling, really looking at her, and then her different NIL deals that she's gotten, especially the one with WWE. It really boosts us, because it says you can go to a small institution, you can go to an NAIA institution and have these opportunities. You don't have to be at a Power 5 school to get this opportunity. What you have to do is work hard, be a good person, build a brand that somebody wants to invest in, and these things will come to you. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that Peyton has built a brand for herself that people want to invest in, not just because she's a talented athlete and a hardworking athlete, but because she is just someone that people want to cheer for.
Nice. Well, you're our first coach that we actually have had on the deal, and would like to hear a little bit more too on, do you see this as an opportunity to help recruit and retain, being able to have name, image, and likeness, and of course a more expansive program in wrestling?
I think for women's wrestling specifically, yes, because we are so different than any other sport within the NAIA. NCAA has not officially recognized women's wrestling. They're still emerging sport status. And so there's so much parity between the NAIA programs and the NCAA programs. So that's the first part. But then, as a coach, I think the most important thing for me and talking to recruits isn't just that Peyton was offered these deals, but that we had the flexibility and the willingness to work with her to make sure that she was able to fulfill her end of the bargain. Specifically with WWE, we had, I don't even think it wasn't even a very long talk. It was maybe an hour total of conversation of, hey, they want me out here on this day. Okay, well, we also have a duel the day before. All right, what do we have to do? And figuring out, okay, she's going to drive up on the bus, fly out of Indiana. We'll see you back home. But as a coach, having that flexibility is good. And then also having open communication with your athletes on what your program needs. And like, I didn't shut Peyton down and say, no, we're busy, we're in Indiana that weekend. It was, what do you need? How do we make this work together? I might be remembering wrong, P, so correct me if I'm remembering wrong, but I think in that conversation, it's possible Peyton was a little nervous to ask, because she knew that was a big weekend, was like, oh, are they going to say no? This is a big opportunity for me. And, but we have to honor our athletes and what their future is, and making sure that they get what they need, because wrestling in college ends. We want our athletes to go on and have successful lives. So how do we facilitate that? How do we make that better? And from the recruiting standpoint, I think athletes can now look and say, look at what Peyton did. Okay, these coaches will work with me, as opposed to, just shutting things down and saying, no, there's no way that can work.
Well, Peyton, how do you feel being the first? You've been at the NAIA from the transition to being the most recent championship sport that we offer, and you've got 3 national championships under your belt. No big deal, but what does it mean to kind of be the one trudging ahead and creating the avenue that other female student athletes are gonna walk behind eventually?
I feel like in a way I kind of did the same thing in high school, because in high school in Las Vegas, like I wrestled on a guys varsity team. There wasn't many women wrestling in Nevada. There was only a few, and like now there's a whole team of girls, and there's so many girls that like I wish I would have that opportunity back then. And so now, like looking back at that, it's like kind of what I'm dealing with now, I guess. So I hope girls that are going to college and getting ready to graduate high school and go to college, I hope they see it as like I can be, and I can achieve what I want to achieve, especially in an NAIA school, with D1 or NCAA wrestling for women starting to, open up a little bit. I hope they know, like, regardless of NAIA or NCAA, you can achieve the same things at either school with NAIA or NIL deals, and, just achieve whatever they have set for themselves.
So if you were able to, get in a room and have, a little bit of a meeting with any of these athletes that are hoping to, maybe even just be a fraction of the NIL, person that you are, what would you teach them about some of the lessons that you've learned along your process of how to build that brand and how to be authentic and how to make sure that their true self is being reflected to people that they want to partner with?
That's a tough question, but I don't know, like you just have to, regardless, because there's going to be people all around you that have negative things to say, regardless of how you are or how you interact with things or do things. So I'm sure there's people out there that watch me and like, oh, she's doing it wrong. But, those negative voices and like around you, you just kind of have to block out and do what makes you happy and do what makes you, regardless of what other people say. And obviously that's hard. And, even with me, sometimes I'm like, read a comment, I'm like, what the heck? That's so mean. But but like with things like that, you kind of just have to block it out and, keep being you and be authentic and, do things that make you happy and, post things that, describe your life. And I don't know, that's something that I've always done. And I guess it's worked out so far.
That's really good advice. And actually, Coach Flavin, you also mentioned too, if they're here to get a education and degree, and if other coaches are also listening, they might also not know how to carve the way and the path for a student athlete. Any advice for other coaches that run across the talent like Peyton?
In some cases, it's just stay out of their way. But
Okay,
I mean, part of that is just the rules, right? Like I'm not allowed to do anything with Peyton's deals. That's all on her. It's reminding if she gets something to send it to our athletic director and get the paperwork done. Really, like you're a background cheerleader and you're a facilitator in that way as far as the NIL goes. And so keeping your hands off there is important, but it's also important to help. I mean, again, we're building women. Like the sport is the easy part. It's helping student athletes grow into people. We've often said, and I mean, we may have said to P what feels like 1,000 years ago, if all you do is become a better wrestler, then we failed as coaches. It's so much more than that. And so talking early about what you're putting on social media, how do you want to build your brand, not just for yourself, for your school, representing your sport, representing things in a positive way. There's so much on social media that we see that isn't positive. And so how can you get your views out there and do it positively? I think as adults, I mean, again, they're adults, they're young adults, they're learning, especially when they get there as freshmen. But I mean, social media is such a black hole of negativity sometimes. And so modeling that to them through our own social media accounts, through our own presence in the public, but then also helping them grow in that social way, helping them make good choices, talking through things with them. Because at the end of the day, if I learned anything, it's that I can't make Peyton do anything. Literally nothing. I can make Peyton do nothing. But what I can do is talk with her about the different options that are available, whether it's what class to take, what move to hit, what food to eat, what businesses to partner with, just talking through her values, do those values match, and then set her up to make her own decision.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Well, I think this has been amazing. We've learned so much just from the both of you. I think we've got a really great coach's perspective and a student athlete perspective. And I do have to give a shout out to your athletics director, Jamie Pendergrass. I mean, when you talked about really advancing women and women in sport, I think she is second to none. I've had some personal experience just getting a chance to talk with her and some of the other wrestlers of what you all have done with having other women belong within your program. And I just commend you as a coach and your program and your athletics director. And it shows and shines through Peyton and as a team in advancing women in sport.
So Peyton, we got one last question for you. What's the future of you at the WWE look like?
I wish I can go in depth about it. As of right now, I would love to come back on and talk more about it whenever, hopefully things, develop. But as of right now, I can't really go too much into it, but hopefully very exciting very shortly. So.
Well, you know where to find the deal. We are right here in Kansas City, and we will get you on the podcast anytime. Really appreciate both of you and your time. And really, everyone, this has been exciting, and I hope you all tune in again for the next episode of The Deal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Guys.